Hello and welcome back to the Xenon Spring Burst qualifiers. I am Alios, being joined once again by Yali for some more Rainbow Six action.
I'm really excited. Got one banger of a game up for you today. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at those rosters. It's going to be Valkyrie versus Wanted Goons Academy, which is, I believe, a team that recently won another tournament against Wanted Goons main. So this is a team that we're really going to want to look out for. But you take a look at Valkyrie. There's some really brutal names on there, Spider and Hitman, to name just a couple. I mean, these are going to be two stacked rosters playing up against each other, and I'm more than excited.
Yeah, Team Valkyrie has, I think it's entirely comprised of people who have been in Element 2 and Element 1, even, I think, for the most part, minus deity. So it's definitely a roster that we're going to want to look out for. But then on the other side of the coin, we have Wanted Goons Academy, which is Akash, Pandasaurus, Volster, Webster, and Zolaris. And this is, well, we know who Wanted Goons are. They took down Karn and Co., I believe 7-4 in the first game of Element 2. And this Wanted Goons Academy roster is at least coach part time by Xsiege, who is the IGL for Wanted Goons. So he has kind of been implementing that kind of system and kind of teaching them how to do it well. And in the last in the last cast I did for Xenon in the quals, they actually beat Wildcard Aces, which is a pretty formidable team, to take down in a scenario like this.
Yeah, Wanted Goons Academy is going to be it's definitely someone to watch out for. As you mentioned, they're learning the same structure that Wanted Goons brought. Where okay, structure is maybe not the right word for it. If you've ever actually watched Wanted Goons play, they've absolutely they've been all over the place, just having a good time. We're gonna find out where they're gonna be having a good time. You said they're all over the place, but that can only happen on one map.
Can only be all over the place on some of the places, as we're only allowed to play one map at a best of one, and that map is Chalet. So a pretty default-ish map. It's like, I'd say a step away from kinda the main maps that we consider default, which would be kinda like Club and Oregon. Although it is still one of the maps that people like to call the best of one warrior maps.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And this is a map that, in my opinion, is really going to favor the Wanted Goons Academy playstyle. It's a map that, if you manage to get your timing right, you can absolutely dominate on it. And at the same time, trying to get that timing right is going to be entirely reliant on just how in synergy you are with your team.
Mhm.
So as we move into the game,
Absolutely.
we're going to have to start looking out for, are they going to be able to build that mental connection with each other where they're able to catch time, Wanted Goons Academy, that is, or are they just going to be rushing in, pushing too hard, and getting caught out one by one by the very seasoned veterans on Valkyrie?
So in the game that I casted last week with Light Rose, where Wanted Academy took down Wildcard Aces, it was on Chalet, and they were solid at coordinating, and they were very good at converting the opening picks that Stellaris was getting pretty consistently. So they do know how to play this map. They do know how to work with each other, even though they are kind of a ball of chaos sometimes. So I do expect a fairly high level of play from both of these teams because both of these rosters are really, really good.
No, totally agreed. I think Fenrir and Brava off the board, though, kind of interesting choices in my opinion. I think by Valkyrie, that speaks a little bit to aggression because not having the Brava on is going to be able to stop a lot of how do I put this? Not having the Brava on is going to make it a lot more difficult for you to clear utility, especially in any sort of tight entrance points.
Mhm.
Like, for example, trying to make it through that game's door or through the game's window as well. So they're going to be opting, maybe we might see something more along the Twitch or a Flores in this case to clear out shields. But, not having the Brava on and as well not having the Fenrir on to just kind of mitigate the effect that's going to have as well.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of aggressive entry from both sides. I think it's not just going to be Wanted Goons Academy.
Yeah, Fenrir also kind of him being off the board just allows you to, like you said, make those aggressive entries because you can hit gaps in the site a lot more effectively if Fenrir doesn't exist. And the fact that Valkyrie banned him kind of means that they're going to be pretty comfortable holding those gaps or maybe even setting up gaps purposefully to bait Wanted Goons Academy into trying to take it. So we're going to go down to Kitchen here for our first defense here from Wanted Goons Academy, which I would say for this map, that's pretty standard, right? All the bomb sites, for the most part, are pretty good if you know how to play them. So, just go with the classic, right?
I do like seeing the castle on the board because you see the use of this castle. We've got it on the piano window as well as many of the other highway windows and the big window. That just means it's going to be so much more difficult for them to actually go through and create cutoffs across this top floor. So this top floor is going to become pretty menacing. However, with the floors on the board, I'm expecting a lot of those to be taken care of pretty quickly. And instead of that, it's going to be Pandasaurus off the board. Prompt early pick by JJ.
Good stuff from him. A very impactful player to get out of the way, although great pick if you are Valkyrie. Not so good pick if you're Wanted Goons Academy. We're going to see Webb here sitting on these solar stairs, kind of fighting for his life a little bit as they really want him gone, as this is a very powerful position that can hold a lot of the top floor control that Valkyries want. But he's been excellent at evading this utility that Valkyrie have been throwing at him.
Barrier going to be up in that window, and of course we're gonna have to get aggressive because we don't have the change yet that's gonna allow them to shoot that out. That's not going to be any problem. All it's going to do is waste a little bit more time, and time is definitely going to be of the essence on this map in particular, because if you're not wasting enough time, the attackers are going to be able to take a lot of map control, making it in through somewhere like the bathroom, just as a quick example. Another kill coming out. Deity going to find Webb, and that's going to hurt a lot. Suddenly your top floor hold is going to become a lot less strong, but with a pick coming back the other way, that's going to be huge. Aggressive firefight. Looks like it's going to come out. Not yet, but Wanted Goons Academy really needs to find something here, because they're down, and well, they don't exactly have a huge time advantage on the board yet.
JJ is going to get one onto Volsper, leaving it just up to Zolaris and Akash. Zolaris definitely worse for wear here, and it's going to be the last one left now. 1 versus 4. Sitting inside a kitchen, he does have control of the site, which he is going to abandon to go upstairs and just see if he can pick off these attackers that are on Vert. They don't know where he is, which is going to give him a pretty good opportunity to potentially try to get an ambush pick, but with how low on health he is, he's going to have to be accurate with his shots. Works his way up into Solar. He downs JJ and gets the diffuser, but Spider, immediate refrag, brings us to the first round's conclusion with Valkyrie up on top.
So we watched in that round, I mentioned it very early on, that Castle was going to be brought to deny a lot of these crossfires that ultimately ended up putting a lot of pressure on the top floor. Now, Wanted Goons Academy was a team that I was expecting to play a lot more active defense, swinging these angles, getting aggressive on them, but that didn't really happen. Instead, Valkyrie was allowed to sit out and just use their utility to try and remove these players out of position, ultimately finding 2 early picks. That's going to give you pretty much the whole round from that point, because Wanted Goons Academy needs to either get aggressive or die trying, right? But they didn't. They kind of sat back, and Valkyrie was able to just go through, pick them off one by one. They find the positions of those players, and we saw that beautiful swing into piano by JJ. Just simple things like that. Knowing where the player is and then just hunting them down. Valkyrie just showed us something, I'm not going to say a masterclass yet, but exactly how you would exploit Wanted Goons' very passive hold during that round.
Yeah, JJ's been around for a while, right? And so he's going to know how to coordinate things kind of the way he wants, or the take he's doing, and also to take advantage of the way his opponents are playing, right? He realized what they were doing, read into it, and then made a call around it, and we saw the call work. And even though he ended up dying in the end, there was an immediate refrag. Zolaris had no time at all to do anything once that pick came through, because Spider was immediately in the next room, and he took advantage of Zolaris' focus on JJ.
Yeah, and I think it's very good to have a strong leading voice like that in JJ, really, because don't mean to call up old old statistics, other leagues and stuff. They did go 0-4 in Element 2. This isn't going to be as steep of competition as Element 2 is, and I think that shows a lot. JJ is going to be able to call a lot easier during this competition, but Instead, we're going to be getting into this round. An aggressive entry already from Deity, but it's Zolaris going to find the first.
Immediate refrag coming out from Deity, though, is going to have to... He's going to get that pick on the Volsburn. Getting in a zombie off the board, kind of period, is really great in this fight. He's going to get another one as well, but Web with a refrag via C4. Ties things back up, but Valkyrie controlling the man count, keeping things going their way, leaving everything up to Web in the 1 versus 3. He's going to control Master Bedroom, but unfortunately, not much more. He does manage to get the first one, but he's going to have an uphill battle here, Yali.
Gonna have an uphill battle. Rather a downhill battle as he makes his way down these stairs. Webb looking for these picks. He knows he's going to have to swing, but he doesn't find it. A missed opportunity there, and that's going to potentially cost him the round, but in the very least, it's going to make it much easier for a 2v1 to be played. Where's the diffuser? It is going to be going down on the site. Massive plant here, but with a team member so far off, perhaps Webb is going to have a chance to find something here.
He's made his way back up into Solar. He has a 1v1 for the time being until Spider-Man manages to get back into the side, but he does have to take down Deity in this time. Gonna make his way over to Piano, where he's gonna get a gunfight with Spider. Sitting inside a case hall, they both know where he is now. He has to make his movements carefully, but not carefully enough as Deity gets the final kill. Takes things to a nice 2-0 scoreline as Valkyries put on another masterclass.
Not entirely sure why Goons Academy wasn't holding Solar any stronger. They knew they were getting a lot of pressure put in there very early on, and yet they didn't stay there. We saw an aggressive entry because Solar was completely clear, and off the back of that aggressive entry, we saw an entire, just the floodgates opened. The players on Valkyrie were able to move into the site and just absolutely eviscerate that defense, finding pick after pick until ultimately we found ourselves in a very easily tradable 2 versus 1 situation. Now, this is a kind of a weakness that I think happens a lot with teams that you say, oh, they've got that aggressive structure, they've got that synergistic playstyle, and that is they might synergize and they might know what to expect from their teammates a lot of the times, but they don't know what to expect from their enemies. And I think Valkyrie, once again, finding the aggression, and as well, Goons Academy just not responding well enough, not being prepared enough for it. We did see, after all, Goons Academy did find the first pick. They were prepared somewhere, but it wasn't in the right spot. It wasn't where the push was going to come out because they expected something else. Valkyrie is doing an excellent job so far of countering that. And in a strongly defensive meta that we're in right now, it's going to be a huge advantage for them going up 2-0 early on in this attack.
I think it is also worth saying that, like, Rival and Deity and Spider as well, and even Hitman, are all people that are willing to just walk, right? We've seen all of these people play primary entry positions with a good amount of success in the past, and so if you give them an opening, they're just going to hold the W key and they're going to take it. And we see a Deity do that in the last round, and it results in a kill for him. And then they use that control to get control of the rest of the site. And so Goons Academy are going to want to try to tie up these gaps because, like I said earlier when we were talking about the bans, a Fenrir ban means that you can't just stick utility on a gap in the site and then not have to worry about it.
Early opening pick, once again, coming out from ATK. While Goons Academy just cannot leave bodies on the board for very long at all, which is surprising given the fact that so far they haven't necessarily preferred that active defense that I mentioned early on. But with that opening pick on the board, Valkyrie is already hunting, and they're looking for utility, but they're also looking for gaps, scouting out that window there, but it's going to get... Sorry, that game's window, but that's going to get plotted out pretty fast as Lion is going to get shut down, but Deity with an aggressive entry elsewhere finally finds a trade. Now we find ourselves in a 3v3 with a minute and a half left on the clock, but Goons Academy look a little uncomfortable with the situation that they're in, looking for better positions because they don't necessarily have the greatest right now, and Valkyrie is looking to exploit.
Yeah, Valkyrie's been very good at kind of corralling WGA where they want them. And it has been paying off. And we are in a 3v3 here, which is a good, solid situation for Goons Academy. But it's also not a bad situation for Valkyrie if they're kind of able to maneuver things in the way they want.
45 seconds left on the clock. Goons Academy is looking for something. They're finding these expectations. They found it, but Rival gonna come away completely unscathed from that. Still in a 3v3, but they're gonna have to find a new entry position at this point.
And JJ finds it, gets the pick onto Zolaris, who's watching the bottom of the main stairs, almost gets another onto the top of blue stairs. Pandasaurus is sitting there, worried about an entry into mud that is not being made at the moment. We hear the breach charges going down from JJ's. Is going to make Vert over that site and create pressure that the attack's going to use to get in. And in the last 10 seconds, they're going to make their entry. They're going to kill the player inside a stock. Worried about Panda over inside a pickle. He's going to try to get into the site, get the fights down, but no, Rival. He gets the last pick of the round, and once again, beautiful round from Valkyrie to bring things to 3-0.
I think the kill onto the Azami is just an excellent example of Valkyrie being able to find these gaps and understand the entries and how things are going to end up playing, because they knew where the Azami was, because the Azami peeked Rival on the bottom floor. If they had actually gotten that kill, as I'm going to level, they probably should have. They had good expectations. They made an adjustment, which good on Wanted Goons Academy. They just have to finish that out. But if they had actually gotten that kill, it still would have only resulted in a trade. But still an excellent use of the information that they got just from using their faces. Valkyrie, good job on that. Wanted Goons Academy, though, they have started making adjustments. They are looking for these picks. They're trying to figure out what to expect as Valkyrie tries to find a little bit of aggression. But nothing quite going their way yet. They did do a lot better in the early round, though. They managed to bring it to a 3v3, which, if it had been able to hold out a little bit longer, might have ultimately led to a much more favorable round for them.
10 seconds to go.
Yeah, we are seeing one of Goons Academy make attempts at
To insertion.
adapting and changing things up and trying to fix what's going wrong. But we're also seeing that JJ is kind of or really Valkyrie in general, are a step ahead in a lot of cases. And that's not really one of Goons Academy being bad so much as Valkyrie being really good. That being said, though, Zolaris does get an opener onto Rival, which is a great player to get off of the board, as well as great utility to get off of the board. As Flores, extremely powerful on this map. He almost gets Hitman through the barricade, but doesn't end up doing so. But even still, I'm sure he can live with getting a Flores off the board.
Yeah, getting the Flores off the board here early is absolutely massive for Wanted Goons Academy. If you remember, that was the primary utility that they used to open up the castle barricades that applied so much pressure during the last round. But they're not going to have that availability. Instead, they're going to be having to send some other player, not sure who yet, onto Highway to start applying that pressure. And whether or not they're going to be able to open those in a timely manner is another question altogether. However, looks like they're preparing for an entry with this player on the west main window, who's going to go down. Zolaris with the second on the round, but another player coming up the west main stairs gets spotted out. The gridlock is not going to have an effective entry here, with Zolaris playing a very comfortable position.
Zolaris is... he's very good at those early round engagements. When, I saw him on this map before, he got, I believe, a majority of the entry kills for his team. And that was something that helped them a lot. And now he's getting a majority of the picks for his team as he's on a 3K this round. Only has a sliver of HP left, but when you've done that much damage and your team has that big of a man count, that doesn't really matter as much.
Weird time to harp on this, but Zolaris has 7 kills, Webb has 3, and the rest of his team has 0. So there you go. There's a little quick thing I noticed. But in the meantime, we're going to be looking for somewhere to entry, because Valkyrie has to find something. They know there's a lot of players on this team who are just kind of getting rolled, but whether or not they're going to be able to capitalize on that, we'll have to see. Valkyrie can't find anything yet, but they know a few of the positions, and they have the information. But there it is, JJ with the entry. That's one. Looking for a second, but the trade's going to come out in another direction, and it's all up to JJ. Finally losing it out. Panda, that's going to be the first round on the board for WGA.
Very good play there, individually from Zolaris, obviously, but also to the rest of Wanted Goons Academy, as we've all seen situations like that where you're in a 5v2 and then some guy decides that he's Prime Cantor Raketti and then, walks out onto Mezzanine. But no one does that because they recognize that they want to hold their positions that they were had on the top floor because that's kind of the win con for that side a lot of the time, but they don't do it in a way that's foolish. They play back, they play safe, and even Zolaris kind of cooled off a little bit once he had that low of HP because he knows that the man count is king in that situation, and we see that there is a trade that happens on the top floor, but even still, goes the way of Wanted Goons Academy playing that man count really, really well.
I think there are exactly two things that really solidified that round. The first one being that spawn peak. The castle barricades on highway did not get open. None of them did. With that spawn peak taking out the Flores very early on, that was absolutely massive. There's no pressure across there, and that allowed for a few things, not the least of which being a lot of safe area on that top floor. That allowed the players to be on the cameras because they were on the cameras calling out what's going on around West Main, and that enabled Zolaris to find his kills. Not to mention, even if he didn't, the fact that they had so much control of the master bathroom meant they had vertical pressure on all of West Main. There was no way an entry through West Main was going to be successful unless they found really solid picks and cleared out some of those highway players, or rather, placed a player on highway to apply pressure beforehand. It just didn't happen after the first opening pick.
We go to a conversation about pressure, an age-old topic in Siege, and we see a lot of teams use it very, very well. Both Valkyrie and Wanted Goons being some of those teams so far in this matchup, though Valkyrie more consistently than Wanted Goons up to this point. Spider makes an entry over towards Piano side here. They want to take control of this area so they can use it to burn out that blue shield and then get control of the top floor so they can eventually plant either in bar or in games, just kind of depending on where things end up late round.
Flores is going to be the chosen operator this time, as well as many other times this time. Try and get that top blue shield. Head spotted out, so they know that the Azami is playing in this position. They knew that already, but shots coming out. Deity finding the first on the round, and he's going to make an aggressive entry off of it.
He's going to walk in over towards blue, manages to tag Pandasaurus inside of Pickle, who's going to tempt fate a couple times, but ultimately decide against it. Akash, though, going to fall to Deity next, followed by Hitman getting one. Panda brings one back with the man control. Man count still firmly in the control of Valkyrie. We see Pandasaurus sitting inside of lobby, just waiting, hoping that someone walks towards him without checking. Webb gets one onto Spider, brings things back ever so slightly. These are still in the hands of Valkyrie, though, as they have 50 seconds left to clean things up. But a C4 might come out, and it does. Webb brings it down to a 2v2. All left up to Hitman and Rival. Hitman's going to make his way into Library, almost going to pick on Webb, but not quite. Knows to stay patient, stay still, but he peeks the vert, and Hitman gets the kill. It's all left up to Panda. Has control of bar, at least to some degree, and the attackers are separated. He has a solid chance at taking this. They don't play it well, but the drone going to reveal his location. He has to move. Going to take the fight on the players dropping from the library hatch. But he's not fully aware of their locations. They have control here to get the diffuser down, but he manages to get the cover. Only has one more to find. Only 5 seconds left to do it. He's going to swing into stock, but he gets the kill with the pistol. Hitman clutches the 1v1 and brings Valkyrie to 4-1 as they dominate this attack half.
Incredible play by Valkyrie. Just being able to find that opening pick and just let it completely open up the floodgates. Yes, it was only one player moving forward, but they managed to get into a pivotal position. Wanted Goons Academy entire upper floor hold basically got its legs knocked out from under them. Then in the retreat, Wanted Goons Academy, they just got swung. They got attacked, and while it almost came back off of some beautiful play by the Mira, they over-aggressed, making that top floor maybe to get a little bit of information, but instead lost their own life. Pandasaurus nearly brought it back, wasn't quite able to. I think this speaks so much to just, when do you play aggressively? This is something, this is very specific thing. When do you play aggressively and when do you play passively? Something that it takes years to figure out. It's a key aspect of Siege, but if you don't know, then you're going to end up making silly mistakes like that. You're going to over aggress, like we saw with the Mira peeking into that top floor. Or alternatively, you're going to sit back and play too passive, as we've seen with the entry on the second round into Solarium, as well as in that round, Pandasaurus sitting back, not applying any pressure, just let JJ get almost the exact firefight that he wanted. Because he had to walk all the way across games to get to where he was, to where he could actually peek him. And Panda just let him walk all the way across games. I'm not super pleased with that decision, to be entirely honest.
Totally agree there. I think something else though is kind of like not only when to play aggressive, but how to play aggressive, right? Because we do see people that are naturally more aggressive than others, but the people that kind of do better with that are the people that know how to do it. And in that situation, playing aggressive isn't the worst idea, as we were getting down to a pretty low amount of time, but the way he went about doing it wasn't the best, which, I mean, we saw from the way the round went. Wolfsburg's playing up aggressive inside of Library at the moment, but Deity strikes first onto Pandasaurus. Zolaris also worse for wear at this point, but Wolfsburg does manage to get one, but Rival's inside of Piano now, making this aggressive entry, as we've seen him do very well so far.
Aggressive play coming out from Goons Academy. Gonna work out. The trade was there in case it didn't, but Webb's just gonna find it very cleanly. A little bit more information, so Spider's gonna know where they are. And an aggressive play, an aggressive entry. Not gonna find anything though. Just a little bit of damage knocked onto Spider, as he's gonna now be a lot more uncomfortable with taking any sort of engagements.
Reinforcing Akash's, excuse me.
Good.
Reinforcing Akash's position inside of Office with that Kiba barrier. The Spider still sits inside of Library, but not for long, as Wolfsburg gets the pick onto him. Just left up to Hitman and JJ. JJ does get one onto Webb, makes things a little bit more winnable. Still a lot of work to be done here. Still hasn't gotten rid of that mirror window, which means they're going to be able to see when he's on this fluke balcony. The pressure onto Piano from Hitman as well going to be working in their favor. He's going to entry in towards this balcony and just try to open things up over towards the Office side here. Just eliminate the angles these defenders can sit in as best he can. No one's actually inside of Office, which means he could potentially get in here, especially off of this flash coming out from Hitman, but Wolfsburg gets the pick on the Hitman. JJ gets one, but Wolfsburg has the immediate refrag as we go 4-2 at the end of this last half, or at the end of this first half, rather.
Goons Academy did a very good job of finding the active plays, getting active, doubling up, looking for something that they could find, but still backing it up with a second player. Very early on, we saw these double stacks being able to take engagements and either, in the very least, trade players out or give themselves complete man advantages, which they did pull off successfully. Valkyrie needed something. I'm not going to necessarily say a miracle, but they needed to find something on the way back, and I think that's where we saw that play where Spider jumped through the library window. Didn't necessarily work out, didn't find anything, and ultimately resulted in him dying, but Valkyrie, just with that new playstyle where they spread out all over the map to try and distract Goons Academy, it's really not wild to see that they're making these singular plays, finding any sort of a gap that they can, especially off of information. But in that case, it didn't work out. 4 other times it did. 4 other times they won those opening engagements, in the very least. Forced Goons Academy to at least take the trade instead of just, or oftentimes they as well found 2 picks early on in the round, so.
Yeah, I do understand kind of why they went for that, because it was working previously, although things generally are only going to work a certain amount of times before they stop working, before your opponents kind of wise up to what you're doing. And unfortunately for Valkyrie, they found the limit that round. I do want to kind of point out the Kali pick, though, from Zolaris, because this was something we saw from them a lot the previous time they were on stream, and it had mixed results, I would say. So I'm interested to see how that translates to playing against Valkyrie.
You think this aggression is going to warrant anything, or rather net anything, or if it's warranted?
Uh,
It is going to take a lot of time off the board. Ooh,
I was gonna need to see a doctor about that.
yeah. But he is all right. He's still on the board, which is something that's going to be probably more important. And with this opening breach completely open, this snowmobile breach completely open, there's just very little sight to actually play on for Valkyrie. There goes one. There goes a second and a third. As Goons Academy are showing that they have what it takes to attack, especially with Rival all the way on the third floor. What are you doing there? Your team is falling apart on the site.
More or less complete control of the site should be in the hands of Wanted Goons Academy by this point, with JJ being downed, and in fact, they're going to use that to get the plant down. His rival has to play out an effective 1 versus 5 here, stuck all the way inside a blue hall. He's not really sure where anyone is or what they're doing here. He's going to make his way over to a hole on main stairs and look to drop off of the smoke grenades. But these air jabs being set up by Webb are going to make his life difficult when he tries to go for the retake. And the Goyle canister as well going to light him up. No HP left to work with as he's stuck on the stairs. He manages to get Volsper. Gets one, but Akash on the Overwatch outside of the main door. Final nail in the coffin as Wanted Goons Academy take their first attack.
We didn't catch many of those kills. I have a feeling I know how those, how a lot of those panned out, and that would be Valkyrie swinging Wanted Goons Academy. I mean, we saw it all the time on the attack. Valkyrie would just get some information and say, "Hey, let's just swing. Let's take these firefights." Wanted Goons Academy was more prepared for it because they're the attacker. They have much more control over the way the round is playing out. One thing that they didn't have control over that was pretty lucky for them was Oryx playing on the top floor. You heard me yell a little bit about that.
A bit.
Once that main breach gets opened, yeah, sometimes it makes sense to stay up there because you can make the late aggressive full vertical plays. But that's really only if Wanted Goons Academy, or your attacking team in general, isn't making that vertical play. But Wanted Goons Academy was able to walk straight through most of the aggression from Valkyrie and just open up whatever they wanted by a minute into the round. Wanted Goons Academy took control so very fast, and they took advantage of it too, finding those opening picks, all 4 of them. And basically 4 opening picks at that point.
Yeah, there's a concept that someone taught me about when I was still playing, which is kind of the idea that, like, you kind of adapt the aggression you're doing throughout the game to what your opponents are letting you get away with on a round-to-round basis. Because the same thing's not going to work throughout the entire game against people once you get to a certain skill level. But if you kind of change up the pace that you're playing at and throw in curveballs here and there, that's much more effective than if it's a constant pace. And Valkyrie has been doing a lot of the same kind of aggression throughout the game, and we're seeing Wanted Goons Academy get good at countering that aggression and using that to get the picks for themselves when they coordinate to make that aggression stop.
Right there, opening pick. That's going to be Rival and Akash off the board. Wanted Goons Academy, I think, predicted that because they had the players in place to try and go for that trade, so.
They did going
for Nitro. Nothing.
Nothing netted from the Nitro cell, though. Not a bad throw. Weapons. Another trade comes out here for Wanted Goons and Deity, this time with JJ and Akash being taken off of the board. And that Ying being gone is going to make the execute a little bit harder. And I imagine she was for the execute with how Ying is typically brought, so gonna have to get by without that utility to open up the site, though. They can work a couple more picks, should be fine.
JJ's still having control of the solar area, but not for long. Quickly going to be flushed out as the entry starts coming in from Wanagoon's Academy. Now it's Trophy going to be next on the docket as Valkyrie loses another player. Volsper finding Deity, putting us down into an execute situation. But there's going to be a lot of ground to execute through as Valkyrie still has a lot of players looking over this way. Maestro on that west main stairs going to be able to deny a lot of areas, especially in that west main or trophy area. And with Spider as well playing way back here in kitchen, you can see so much of the map.
Zolaris gonna jump inside of West Man as that aforementioned Maestro has decided to peel off. Gonna look for this player inside of Dying with the flashbang. Gonna make that more difficult, but he finds the pick anyways. Gonna get shot at by that Evil Eye, but the plant is gonna go down regardless. Hitman's gonna have an uphill battle as he tries to walk up the West Main stairs, but the Zolaris doesn't even let him get that far as he gets a 2K and closes out this round.
I saw the Maestro in the corner of my eye waltz downstairs, and I was like, he knows what he's doing. He's gonna hide himself, and he's gonna make really good use of that utility. And he just immediately opened up his camera and got it shot. Not even at the guy that was planting. If you're gonna make risky plays like that, you have that you're going to find that. You just have to, because he left poor Spider all out on the site, just hanging there to dry. And ultimately, he did get taken off the board. Very easy 3v1 at that point for Wanagoon's Academy with that Maestro being forced to make a really ill-fated destiny up the west main stairs.
Yeah.
Brutal. But early on in that round, I think we saw a lot of Valkyrie just not getting kills. Wanagoon's Academy taking their time, droning things out, getting information, using utility, just playing good siege. All put together. Their attacks look good.
I believe this was what happened the last time as well, where their defense didn't look bad, but it looked wishy-washy in a couple places, and then their attacks looked really good. Good enough, in fact, that they've prompted a tactical timeout from Valkyrie, which we just saw. And only 2 rounds in, because their attacks have looked genuinely excellent so far, to a point that Valkyrie is struggling to deal with it. And so they just want to take some time to just kind of sit, talk things through, make sure they're on the same page, and then jump back into it. And their site they're choosing to do that on is Bar, which is typically one of the more favored sites on this map. So we'll see if that can translate for them. But Wanagoon's Academy also get a chance to sit and talk things through while that tactical timeout is happening. So could be a bit of a double-edged sword there, depending on how this next round plays out.
I'm not sure that there's a whole lot for Wanagoon's Academy to really talk about in terms of improving what they've been playing on, just because they don't know what Valkyrie is going to do now. So far, they've done a good job of playing off the fact that Valkyrie's not playing their trades. They're taking singular engagements, and Wanagoon's Academy, in the very least, is finding trades. If Valkyrie now suddenly manages to start finding trades, then we're going to have a very even game on our board. And while Wanagoon's Academy looks really good, they're good at using their utility to flesh out players. Whether or not that's going to be enough is hard to say, given the fact that Valkyrie are very experienced players. They have JJ on the team, a vocal leader. Is he going to be able to tighten up the team, move them together well enough to actually find trades? So far, it looks like no. So far, it looks like they're getting more aggressive and more singular.
Certainly as a way to set a tempo, though perhaps not the most advantageous tempo, at least thus far on this half. See Rival take not the first, but the second bit of damage, as Panda was damaged a decent bit earlier. As he's just going to be holding down this mezzanine position, not really worrying about too much here, but Panda's all the way in here. Akash, though, does get the pick on the JJ, trying to kill this shield as he's going to walk up towards this Warden here and just apply pressure, just force him into an uncomfortable position, which Akash is going to take advantage of. Hitman does get one, he takes out Webb, but things are looking ever worse for Valkyrie as the picks almost exclusively go wanted Goons' way. Just left up to Spider, gonna throw out the C4. The Monty knows where he is. He's left behind this bar, left with it all to do. He has to hold out for a minute, but he doesn't make it that far. Zolaris drops and gets the pick as Goons Academy have dominated this half, taking 3 rounds in a row.
MVP on that round, 100% has got to be the Monty. Walking in there and doing basically nothing. All he had to do is get aggressive, jostle these players around until he saw, oh, hey, you can swing him now. You're completely safe. Boom, there's a pick. First one seen, obviously, that player in lower fireplace, and then did the exact same thing on the top with the Warden, moving down, doing it again with the Mira. No problem at all for Goons Academy, and while, yes, they lost a couple bodies off the board with that Monty in play, Valkyrie just had no idea what to do. They panicked. They're running away because, surprise, when you have nobody with you, you can't deal with a Monty. You're going to be the one finding yourself on the losing end of that engagement because you know Goons Academy are talking to each other. They've got that Monty who's got the ideas. He's got the communication. He's telling his team what to do. Goons Academy looks so strong, even just after the tactical timeout from Valkyrie.
One of the beautiful things about a tac timeout is, even if, like you said, there's not a ton to improve on if you're already playing well and don't know what your opponents are going to do, you can still just reinforce what you're doing. Make sure you're on the same page, right? Figure out kind of like little plays that you want to make, and we see Goons do that, and it works out pretty perfectly, I would say, in that last round. And the Monty play especially, and how they played around the pressure and the space that Panda created, was beautiful. And they're gonna be feeling good now. They've got all the momentum in their favor, and they're gonna play like it.
No kidding, but there it is, opening pick, and that comes from J Hitman, who is well and above on his own. Way over there near Trophy, it looks like. But the rest of the team playing together. They don't want to give anything up. They think, you know, if we can sit back, we don't give anything up, Goons Academy won't have as many opportunities to isolate individuals. Except for the Hitman, who is completely and utterly confident in playing on his own on the complete opposite side of the map, because sometimes that's just how you need to waste time. But they're, to be honest, Valkyrie hasn't run down the timer once on this defensive half. I understand saying, hey, we want to waste time, but if you're not even running down the timer and you feel like you're doing decently well at running down time, it might be better to take a different approach.
Akash sits at the bottom of blue stairs, up on a bit of a lurk here. If he's able to kind of use that position in conjunction with like a push into games maybe, then could definitely get something out of it. But right now he's just gonna kind of poke and prod, see if he can figure out where these defenders are. Rival gets a pick on the Zolaris in the meantime. JJ gets one onto Panda as well. See a 5v2 here come out in the favor of Valkyrie this time. A good chance to tie things up if they play their cards right. Akash, though, does get one back, but Spider gets Volspur in the meantime, and then JJ secures things, takes out Akash, and gives us a 5-5 scoreline. As we see, I believe, a pretty exact repeat of how the attack and defense wins went at the start of the first half.
I believe so, almost to a T. And I know I've been talking a bit about what I think Valkyrie could be doing better, but it's worth mentioning these are seasoned players. These are all excellent players. Yeah, you want to go off on their own, and that might not technically be the best Siege, but they do play the new style, the style of keep them guessing where are they gonna be, right? They did manage to run down the clock a little bit. Goons Academy looked for aggressive plays, and it didn't work out for them. Goons Academy losing 3 players once they finally decided, hey, we need to look for something. We can't just sit here and go about our checklist, right? And so I think that's a good thing from Valkyrie to to be able to be confident in
10
being on
seconds
your
to
own.
go.
And while it hasn't worked out a lot yet,
5 seconds to
Valkyrie
insertion.
is still, they have gunners, right? They're still going to be able
Attacker
to
detected and
avoid,
defuse the
get into
bomb.
the heads of Wanagoon's Academy. They're going to be able to do something like double spawn peek. Um, Not going to find anything though.
Yeah.
And not in this case.
A lot of people don't walk up that rock when playing this map anymore, just because spawn peaks like that are so common, and I mean, it's common for a reason. It is a very effective way to get picks on people, walking up that way. So, Wanagoon's Academy get up to go the safe route and just not give them the chance. Volsper, opener this time onto Deity, taking the mute off of the board. And this is a little bit more like the start that Wanagoon's Academy are used to.
With no players on the Solar Stairs, that's going to leave a massive gap. And while the Owl player is still available to defend Solarium, that's not going to be true for very long, especially with this cut off through the big window and master by the Nomad. At any moment now, this is going to explode into an aggressive play, but they would really like to see Spider out of here. Oh, what a creative use of the Azamis, preventing the Buck from being able to actually get any sort of aggressive play. But there it is. It's exploding. And yes, it's a Ying against a Warden. Obviously, that's going to be the hard counter, and it's going to work out in this case. Spider does find the pick, but barely. Loses a lot of life, and now there he is down on the Solar Stairs due to that Nomad. Now the aggression can start to come out, but with Rival sitting here still and a minute and a half left on the round, not sure what Wanagoon's Academy's plan is.
There is a big enough difference between the HP of the standing players from Valkyrie and Wanagoon's Academy that could make a significant difference on the round. Hitman, though, evens things out just a little bit and takes out Pandasaurus off of that big window. He's going to look to make sure that no one hops in trophy now as Zolaris starts to drone out this top floor and just gather some information and start to prepare for an execute.
50 seconds left on the board. There's a beautiful
Ooh.
pick by Zolaris, absolutely reading into that. And now nearly all of top floor just completely seceded control, putting us back into a 2v3. And with another pick by Webb, suddenly it's looking tough for Valkyrie with the lone Maestro again, walking up the Solar Stairs, not going to find anything. Zolaris, absolute monster, going to clean that up. But gosh, it's not over yet.
Little early there,
Valkyrie
bud.
has a good chance. Valkyrie has a good chance. And I do want to mention as well, Valkyrie played a completely different round that time, and I'll turn it over to you in just a sec. But yeah, they lost an early pick, and ultimately that could be what cost them the round. But most of the round looked pretty dang good for Valkyrie. They spent a lot of time with a player on Owl, a player in Master, a player. I believe there was a player in Office as well, watching behind them, and they just sat there. And
Attackers need to
Wanagoon's
locate and
Academy
defuse
almost
as
looked
many
like they
bombs
just
as they
didn't
can.
have a plan. Ultimately, they did find a gap. They did force their way in and start cleaning up a lot of those players with Zolaris finally hopping in that bathroom after the Azami got downed.
Yes. There's a lot of good stuff from both teams that round. I think there is a pretty clear effort by Valkyrie to work on adapting and trying to change things, but
10 seconds to insertion.
we're seeing Wanagoon's Academy do it a little bit
5
better
seconds to go.
in this case, which is, I mean, it's why they're winning. And we're going to see a different sight that we saw attempted last time. We're going to see Master Bedroom
Has been dropped.
instead of Kitchen, so a lot more emphasis is going to be put on holding the top floor itself. We do see a player on Solar Stairs this time, I believe, which is going to make that position a little bit more difficult to take than it was last round. Though it's just going to be able to just jump inside of Solar. But when you dedicate utility to one area, it's utility that's not somewhere else, and I'm sure Wanagoons are going to find that somewhere else.
Yeah, Wanted Goons is definitely currently kind of scoping things out, figuring out what map control Valkyrie is trying to hold, and potentially as well what their ultimate plan is as things start moving towards the execute. Wanted Goons does need to start getting aggressive. They're running down their own time. Valkyrie will try and take advantage of that, especially through this aggressive roaming that they've got going right now. And when I say aggressive roaming, I just mean that they're deep. They're not looking for firefights at all. And with the Monty on the board, as we saw last time, absolutely able to jostle those players around. I think staying back and making sure that you have something to back you up, I think that's going to be the play for Valkyrie in this round.
Rival gets the first pick, taking out Webb, who was playing the line, and I believe he had a decent chunk of his utility in his pocket still when he died, so it's going to be a lot of roam clear potential taken off of the board, as well as a little bit more breathing room given towards Valkyrie. Panda, though, is up near the piano door here, just kind of pinging things, telling his teammates what's going on, relaying all that information, which is going to start to become more valuable as this round continues on and as Goons start to look for an execute.
Only a minute left. Goons are just outside the site looking for this, but they're not going to be able to get the Monty through this just because they've only brought an ace. Looking to get him through, though, they're going to be opening up a slightly larger wall as well as using the Yin Candelas to try and open things up as well. But nothing yet. No give at all from Valkyrie, doing an excellent job of sitting back, and there it is, Deity from the bottom floor, finding his first pick on the round.
Wolfsburg's going to sit inside of piano here, wants to take up this aggressive position. See if he can bait this Womai into peeking, but he won't. Zolaris jumps inside a bathroom, though, gets one, almost the second. JJ cleans that up, just left up to Wolfsburg and Akash. Wolfsburg's made his way inside of Master here. He's going to try to make his way over towards these defenders, but Deity has taken out another one. Now Wolfsburg left in the 1v3, but doesn't even get one as Hitman cleans things up and sends us to overtime.
Wanted Goons Academy, what happened? That looked so good during the first half, and then suddenly Valkyrie starts playing with just a little bit more discipline, and you don't know what to do. And when I say they don't know what to do, it really seemed like they had to sit back and say, but how do we penetrate into a defense again? What do we do here? They did a good job. I thought that the play there in the end there, where they had the Monty push in, they used the Yin Candelas to try and dislodge that player and moving into the aggressive position to try and get that Jazz hallway, or the Jazz wall player out, right? The bathroom door player, and then sending a player in through bathroom. Like, that's all excellent. That's peak. But at the end of the day, they gave themselves very little time. They knew exactly what to do then. But then after that, well, guess what? All your players are in the site, but nobody's with them. They're alone, and it gave Valkyrie an opportunity to, very late in the round, look for those aggressive peaks that Valkyrie, we know, loves to take. And they did an excellent job of finally cleaning it up, giving them the round that pushes us to overtime.
Back to bar games we go. They're pretty, I would say, pretty standard defense. Being set up by Valkyrie here. They kind of know what works on this site at this point, as they've had to play it twice against Wanted Goons, and I believe they won the second one, although could be wrong there. My memory is a bit fuzzy. We see the return of the Monty here for Panda, which I think is a pretty solid change, although I don't think Valkyrie are going to let them abuse it in the same way they did before.
Aggressive play by Wolfsburg. I think they're more or less aware of this player, and they're going to be aware of him. JJ cleaning it up, finding the opening pick. Beautifully done, and all off the back of intel on that garage, because after all, you're going to be sitting on that cam early. Although the secondary aggression onto Akash, I don't think is necessarily going to be your play. Womai off the board, too, is a tough operator, considering you're going to be taking very few of those discs. JJ with the second, though, putting Valkyrie back in a man advantage. Still 2 minutes left on the clock, and we've had 3 trades, or we've had 3 kills going either direction.
Hitman's going to be lurking over towards red carpet here, with Webb trying to make an entry over on that side of the building, or I believe that's where he is. And, all right, yes, it is. So he's going to be a 3 armor and make a lot of noise, which Webb is going to use to get that kill and then move in towards 45 Hall. JJ, though, is going to be holding that area down with the Legion, spreading his goo mines around, spreading the little spiky things in your feet. which is going to allow him to maintain a lot of control without really having to overextend himself.
Walls opening up on the site, looking to give Goons Academy something, but they don't seem comfortable yet, especially with that Mira in the closet. That's going to be one ATK rival getting aggressive, knows that there's going to be lots of players upstairs at this point, but now Zolaris getting aggressive, and JJ back on the top floor. 2 players on the top floor, and while there's one down below, Akash now knows he's got to find something, and it's not going to happen. Look at that. Valkyrie playing 2 players in one position. Suddenly, they're doing great. Suddenly, they're finding these excellent kills, and even if it's not just because of the trades, that means that there's pressure from one direction. That makes it so much easier to find those kills because your opponents aren't looking at you. They're looking at your teammate.
See a tactical timeout come out from Wanted Goons Academy here. And I would say it's a pretty good time to take one. They have these next 2 rounds of overtime to try to make things work, although maybe a bit late. It could be argued that it's a bit late, as Valkyrie currently sitting on match point on the side that I believe has been... Actually, I guess not anymore, but was a very convincing side for them in the beginning when they went 4-2 on their attacking half. So we'll see how it pans out. We'll see what happens.
Wanted Goons Academy moving into the defensive side. Normally, we like to say that the attackers are going to get more out of a timeout than the defenders are, which may or may not be true, but in any case, Wanted Goons Academy, I think it's a good time to call it, especially after 7 rounds on the attack, 4 of which didn't go your way. 5. No.
4.
4.
Wait. No, it would be 3. Yeah.
3 of which didn't go your way.
So, for those of you in the audience, there's a rule that Kickstar made, which is never do math on live broadcast.
Yeah, my bad, guys. I'm
and
sorry.
my co-caster and I have demonstrated why. So if you cast Xenon Qualls next season, which you should because it's fun, do not make the mistake that we have made. It is a grave mistake.
Yeah, don't do it.
Also, JJ has 14 kills, speaking of numbers. He is the only person on his team who's positive.
Wow.
And
here we are. We went into the beginning of this going, yeah, JJ, it's a good thing he's got the brain on him because he's not going to shoot back. But here he is. Second most kills in the lobby.
Not to discredit JJ, because JJ is really funny and has been in both seasons of Element. But he's not usually the guy that you're going to expect to be the top frag, but he has been an excellent playmaker throughout that defensive half, especially for Valkyrie. And it's, I think, been a lot of the reason that they were doing so well in those rounds that they won. The reason that they got to overtime and then put themselves on the match point they sit at.
All right, now here is that one place again where we had the castle barricades, then the Flores got taken off, and suddenly they didn't know how to open the castle barricades. There was no pressure on the defense of Wanted Goons Academy, right? We remember this from round 1, and I believe it was round 5 as well. But this time they didn't even bring a Flores. They're going to be opting for other methods, I guess, nades, as well as ace, or just walking up the blue stairs. There's Deity with the opening. And Valkyrie looking to get aggressive. This is an entirely different take than what we've seen last time, opting to give them the top floor and look for things below. They're going to try and do what they did while they were attacking Bar, where they chopped the legs out from under the top floor. But will that really work?
We'll have to see. We see Deity's gotten a lot of really good control here. But even aside from that pick, just the control he's taken is absolutely massive for the defense here. And then Rival, get a tag on for another one. Take Volsper off the board here. We only have 1 minute and 10 seconds left, and now one less Rival the Valkyrie has to work through things, but they've been making pretty good time nonetheless.
Only a minute left and just a little bit of control left on this top floor, but they don't really need to keep control over it. Valkyrie, that is, the attackers. They just need to make sure that they can't get in and deny it from above. But Akash is definitely going to be looking for that gap as Valkyrie sets up to go for this execute.
Gonna start running in. Panda gets one onto Spider, though. Deity gets tagged up by Web as well and eventually taken down. As you see the man advantage flip back in the way of Wanted Goons Academy. A couple players are going to look to retake the top floor and establish vertical dominance as well. Hitman and JJ are entirely separated here. And JJ has to contend with the Vert, which right now is going the way of Akash as he's led up to only 50 HP. Hitman has gotten the inside of Trophy here, but he gets killed off by Web, and then JJ gets taken out by Akash. And we're going to max overtime here.
That was exactly what I was talking about when I said they didn't really want to start taking that top floor control. They just want to try and pressure them, keep them from retaking. But then Akash got in and he found 2 picks through that vertical. Just absolutely brutal, soul crushing, because Valkyrie, they had the man advantage leading into that execute. But they didn't leave anyone up there to hamper the movement of Valkyrie, or rather of Wanagoon's Academy. And Wanagoon's Academy ended up taking full advantage of that. I think this is the case where, yes, in theory, that take works very well. But in practice, it has to go right because one kill by that top floor player, and suddenly your entire take is dismantled.
I think as well, I don't think there was really, like, enough of a man count in the end to, like, maintain the control they needed. Is like in order to maintain the pressure on top floor that they need to prevent the defense from retaking it, you have to have a dude there, and they weren't able to have a dude there. And so we see it get retaken and then used effectively. And I apologize. I read a message my co-caster sent making fun of me, and I lost my train of thought. Anyways, max overtime here. We're going to see Office and Master Bedroom as the final battleground here for this map, as whoever walks away with this round win ends up walking away with the map and the win. So a lot riding on this round, and unfortunately Volsper's not going to be partaking in it as he is taken off of the board.
We basically know Valkyrie's win con, and it's not that. Losing that trade there hurts a lot. If they had been able to maintain that player on that top floor, we've seen them have long control over large areas, good positions, and just absolutely dominate any push that Wanted Goons wants to make. But they didn't necessarily do that this time. The trade comes out, and that's going to be kind of painful, especially with this Monty on the board who's going to be able to jostle them around. Remember what they did last time? They pushed this player out of piano first, and then they used the Ying primarily. But the aggressive play by the Frost is going to be absolutely huge. That's your ace off the board. There's no entry point left for Wanted Goons Academy.
Bandosaurus taken off the board as well. That's your Monty gone. And now Rival sits at the top of Blue Stairs here. And he's going to be able to prevent them from just walking in Piana here, or at least just jumping in the Fluke balcony. Webb is going to lurk underneath here. It looks like he might want to walk up Solar Stairs maybe, or actually just walk into 45 and get that pick on the Rival. It's a 2 versus 2 now, with it, which is entirely workable for Wanted Goons Academy if they can play their cards right. But Hitman knows he has control of the diffuser here, and he's just gonna sit and hold. As well as Solaris, not a ton of HP.
What a wildly strong crossfire. There's absolutely no way you're going to be able to get in there unless you establish something, or if J Hitman holds a peak like this, gets aggressive on this hallway, that could be the beginning of the end. There it is!
Zolaris gets one, Web the other, and somehow Wanted Goons Academy 2-0 against Element 2 teams, at least so far on the broadcast, as they play Chalet exceptionally well.
I just I don't understand. Why are you peeking that, Valkyrie? Hitman! I know you've been the aggressive player this whole matchup, but you can't be peeking that. You had the perfect setup to win that for your team, and you threw it away. And I gotta call it like it is. You just can't do that. You have to have the discipline if you want to be the best. That's just how it is. Goons Academy did a very good job. They managed to find their discipline on both attack and defense, and that's ultimately just the minute detail that managed to propel them towards a victory over titans of the tier 2 scene.
Yeah, I did talk earlier about kind of like not only when do you get aggressive, but how do you get aggressive, and kind of comes back to rear its head again in that last round. Is the swing taken on to Zolaris was not really advantageous, and then Webb cleaned up the other, and then we get how that round went. We are going to send it to a quick break just kind of while the rest of this round finishes, although there's probably not much left since that game went into max OT. And we'll get the next game ready, and we will see you in a bit.